Find out.
Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 387-2323.
LA filing number 16-7970.
WNXX Jackson, KNXX Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers. LA 21-12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Monday. Means we're brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. Hope your work week is off to a good start. We appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. And we are fired up to be with you. Everybody kind of trying to get back into the routine. Most people haven't worked in 5 days, so you're trying to get caught up. And we've got a lot to react to that has happened since we last we're with you here, so we're fired up to be here, and thank you for hanging out with us on this Monday afternoon. We'll chat, as we do every single Monday, with Denton Day of SiriusXM's College Football Overtime. An hour and a half from right now, LSU played basketball back on Friday night. We will react to that. The Saints dropped one yesterday against the Rams, and Taysom Hill is out for the year. We'll react to all that in about 30 minutes, and certainly want to get you caught up on Rivalry weekend in college football. But we start the same way that we start each and every day on this show. That is, of course, with your Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Tigers win at 37-17 on senior night in a chilly Tiger Stadium. I thought it was an excellent performance by LSU offensively and defensively, and, of course, on special teams because you get that huge play. The entire complexion of that game on Saturday shifted over the course of about 5 minutes of real time because there was a point after Robinson goes in for a two-yard score, and Oklahoma has just gone 75 yards in 3 plays to take a 4-point lead on LSU, and Garrett Nussmeier is in the locker room. So you've seen LSU's offense without Nussmeier, not very good, and you don't know if he's going to come back in the game, and LSU's now losing. So it looked awful. Nussmeier emerges from the locker room. He's got his shoulder pads on. He's got his helmet on. And you can tell he's going to go back in this game. And then Aaron Anderson houses the kickoff return 100 yards. And you now have your quarterback back, and you're leading. And all that happened in a very, very short window of time. And from that point, LSU flat dominated Oklahoma. The defense only allowed a field goal more. The offense hit some explosive plays to Chris Hilton for a pair of touchdowns. They went on a couple of long scoring drives that ended in field goals. And it was really a complete effort from all the phases of LSU's team. Keep in mind, LSU's offense created 30 points in this game. They got 7 more from Aaron Anderson. And we talked about this last week. Oklahoma's defense is good. They've got a really good run defense. They create a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They hit Garrett Nussmeier early and often in this game. But LSU ran the ball well and threw the ball well on a good Oklahoma front. In the end, statistically, Nussmeier, 22 of 31, 277 yards, 3 touchdowns. LSU on the ground was very good. 110 yards, had the big bust from Caden Durham. I'm a little bit disappointed that Caden Durham busts that 50-yarder, and still he gets 11 carries and Josh Williams gets 13, but that's okay because LSU moved the ball when they needed to on the ground, and they absolutely did a great job through the air, and you got Chris Hilton involved finally in the deep game. And that was probably the most encouraging piece of the offensive performance, I thought, from LSU, that you got Chris Hilton going in the vertical game, because that is something LSU simply has not had. We heard Brian Kelly talk about this 2 weeks ago. He said teams are squatting on our short and intermediate routes, and we're not stretching the field enough. And LSU was trying that a lot early in the season. In the Ole Miss game, Garrett Nussmeier threw 17 passes that traveled 15-plus yards. But somewhere along the line, they got to be too reliant on the very short passing game. We gave you that statistic that Garrett Nussmeier's completions were averaging just over 3 yards per throw after the Florida game. Like, it was just a broken offense from that perspective. And Hilton offers the deep threat. You've got some talented guys at wide receiver. Kyron Lacey can give you something in one-on-one matchups. He's got great ball control, body control. He's a good wide receiver. Aaron Anderson's explosive. Xavier Thomas can make people miss in space. Mason Taylor's great in the short passing game. But none of those guys offer exactly what Chris Hilton does because he is the fastest dude on the field the second he steps out there. And because of the guys in front of him last year and then injuries the years previous to that and this one, he just hasn't had the opportunity to get out there and play. And you saw what he can do to a defense when you don't respect the deep ball. Make big plays, 2 touchdowns of 40-plus yards. Nussmeier was surgical after he came back. He completed his first 10 throws after returning to the game. Really did a nice job of dissecting that Oklahoma secondary that has really good players in it. And I thought offensively LSU was very, very good. To score 30 points plus the 7 special teams on that defense was excellent. And then LSU pitches a shutout in the second half of that game against Oklahoma. And I'll tell you that I thought some of the most encouraging pieces to what LSU did in that shutout were guys that you expect to help next year. I had to use this caveat on the postgame show, and I will use it again here because I can't, in confidence, name any player that will definitely be on LSU's football team next season. I can't. But we're just going to work off of assumptions until we know. My assumption is that Whit Weeks will be back. He made 15 tackles. 9 of them were solo, 2 TFLs, had a hurry, forced a fumble, looked fast and active and all over the field. Devon Keys was second on LSU's team in tackles. He had 10. He played more snaps in the game than Major Burns did. And we thought that was coming in games against run-heavy offenses in Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. Probably going to see more linebacker play instead of star play. And Devon Keys, I thought, played an awesome game. Had a tackle for loss, had a sack, looked really good. He's a freshman. 2 sacks from Dominic McKinley in this game. That's a guy who was given SEC Freshman of the Week award today and has played more and more as the season's gone on and is starting to figure some things out. He figures to be a big piece of what you're trying to do on defense next year. You had Tylen Singleton out there. You had Dylan Carpenter out there. Javian Toviano was out there. Ahmad Bro had a half a tackle for loss. All of these guys are guys that LSU figures to count on in a defense next year. That was the most encouraging thing to me about this game. Oklahoma basically couldn't do anything offensively after halftime. They just didn't have anything to lean on. They could not run the ball. Their passing offense was really disjointed. It didn't seem like Jackson Arnold could ever just take the snap, back into the pocket, and go to work. He was constantly running for his life. Savion Jones did a great job in that game. He had 5 hurries and a quarterback hit. Then you had Braden Swinson, who had 6 quarterback hurries and a quarterback hit. Arnold was constantly dropping back and then looking where he could run. That's really all he had. That worked pretty well against Alabama. It did not work well against LSU. If you look at the drives that Oklahoma had after halftime, they had a 6-play, 20-yard drive where they punted. They had the inexplicably stupid interception that the tight end threw. No concept of just kind of eating that one going down. Instead, you just fling it up in the air for anybody to run under. Sage Ryan won't ever have an easier interception in his life. But that was the next drive. Then they had a 3-and-out where they lost 7 yards and punted. Then they turned the ball over on downs. And then you had the last drive that they went 79 yards, but it ended the game. So it was just, I thought, complete domination from LSU's defense in the second half. And that's honestly what you were going to have to do for this to be a passable effort, because Oklahoma's offense has been anemic all year. They got set up with short fields in the game against Alabama, and they cashed some of those in. If you didn't do that, which LSU didn't, then it was going to be difficult for Oklahoma to move the ball, and they didn't. So LSU offensively controlled the pace, controlled the tempo, controlled the clock, controlled the yards, and put up points. And defensively, you put the clamps on Oklahoma. I thought it was a very complete effort from LSU, something they've kind of been searching for all year. They were pretty good against Vanderbilt. I thought they were better in this game against Oklahoma, just about from start to finish. You had a blip in there where the quarterback went down and you gave a touchdown drive up. But other than that, it was pretty good. Would I like Garrett Nussmeier to hold on to the football, not fumble it for a scoop and score? Yes. But on the flip side of that, if you've noticed, he has not thrown an interception in the last 3 games. I wrote a story up at LouisianaSports.net today that talked about some guys that have draft day decisions coming up. If you'd like to read that, you can do it for free on LouisianaSports.net. But one of the statistics that I gave in that piece was that Nussmeier, in his last 115 attempts, has not thrown an interception. I think that would qualify as some growth. Now, turnovers are turnovers, so giving up the strip sack, it hurts. But I think that you've seen some growth from him, and I think that he played really good football in the last 2 games. That was gritty and tough and gutty and all those cliche phrases. But he was tough, and he went back in the game, and I thought played really, really well in the second half. So tough to find a ton to be overly critical of with this one. Oklahoma's not a great football team. There's a reason they only won 2 league games. But you take that on senior day, and you finish the season 8-4. That's kind of my reaction to the game. Now there's a bigger picture discussion that's got to be had, which is where's the program? What did Brian Kelly have to say post-game? And what do we now look back on this season? Because make no mistake, like there's nothing else that can be accomplished by this team. I am not even going to try to pretend to sell you a bill of goods on this bowl game. Not going to do it. Those things have completely lost their value. I did the same thing last year, and then when it was announced that Jaden Daniels wasn't going to play, I said, okay, I'm really just interested in how Nussmeier looks. I don't even care if they win or lose. Turns out he looked good and they won, so that's happy hunky-dory. But I don't care about the results of the bowl game. I can't tell you who's going to play in it, who cares about it, where it's going to be, who's it going to be against. This team's done accomplishing what they're going to accomplish. And in the end, you win a game at South Carolina, you win a game against Ole Miss, you go 8-4. That's the discussion we've got to have. So we'll do that when we come back. That was our Genesis opening drive. It's a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. EvolvePT.com is the website. If you're dealing with pain or you had a surgery and you're trying to get back to being your active self, Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports is where you need to be. It's something I tell you every day about how hands-on their physical therapy team is at Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. It is never going to be a situation where you walk in, they hand you a list of exercises and stretches to do and say, hey, we'll see you in a week, see how you've progressed. No. They will be hands-on from the time you walk in to the time you leave. Their job is to do whatever they can do to make sure you get back to being your active self, no matter if that's working out every day, no matter if that's playing with grandkids, no matter if that's getting back on the golf course. If you can't do the things that you want to do because of pain, Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports can help you with all of that. They've got capabilities to do dry needling, cupping, scraping. They can monitor your recovery with the isokinetic testing that they do. It's state-of-the-art. It's first class. Fantastic people over at Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. Robbie Bolton has been at it for 2 decades. Go by and see them. They're on Starring near Highland Road. It's Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. EvolvePT.com.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram can get you in a new 2025 Ram 1500 truck with $15,000 off MSRP. $15,000 off the newly designed Ram 1500 truck. All new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Tigers winning on Saturday. 20-point victory, 37-17 was the final. And obviously, with the end of the regular season comes some thoughts on the season that was. And before I give mine, I thought Brian Kelly's press conference on Saturday was an interesting one. I really did. He had an interesting tone to the way that he approached questions. He had some interesting things to say regarding receipts and national championships, and sometimes I just paraphrase to kind of continue with the conversation, but I think in this instance we've got to play Kelly's bite from Saturday. I'm assuming most of you have heard it, but this is what the head coach had to say in the moments after LSU's win.
You know, whatever camp you want to jump into, go right ahead. You know, we had 5 freshmen and 2 sophomores on defense today, playing their tails off. So again, we're taking receipts, and you know, we'll see you at the national championship. This team's building. We're excited about them, and we're really proud of them.
Interesting choice of words there. We'll see you at the national championship. LSU clearly will not be playing for a national championship this year. They went 8-4, and there is almost nothing that you can asterisk next to 8-4 to make it look any better in Baton Rouge. That's just not going to be the standard. 10-2 is going to be essentially the minimum that's acceptable. Looks like everyone that is 10-2 is going to get into the playoff from the SEC and the Big Ten, and that's kind of what we thought. There may be a 9-3 that gets into the playoff here. Alabama and South Carolina and Ole Miss will be sitting there anxiously kind of awaiting their fate. 8-4 will not get it done, and that is something that everybody is comfortable with, it understands, and it certainly was not the standard in year 3. I know that this has been a common refrain, but now that we have finality, it puts this season to bed. And essentially, my feeling on LSU this year and why they were 8-4 on the outside looking in, as opposed to 9-3 with a shot or 10-2 and in, essentially boils down to a couple of things. One, defensively, I don't believe that LSU has the roster to be a championship contender. I believe that will play out in the NFL draft. I think Braden Swenson is probably a day 2 pick I think when his day comes, Harold Perkins is a day 2 pick. I think Zy Alexander has a chance to make a roster. And I think that Whit Weeks is a really productive college player. I'm still not completely confident in what his draft ability is after next year or the year after that. But that right now, to me, outside of Savion Jones, and that's probably where it stops. That's as draftable as it gets. And LSU has made its mark over the last 25 years churning through high-end NFL draft picks on every level of the defense. Pass rushers, tackles, middle linebackers, edge defenders, corners, and safeties by the truckload. And in my estimation, that was not the case with this team. I feared that in August, and I, at halftime of the A&M game, convinced myself, no, maybe they don't have quite the talent level they once did, but they've coached around it, and they've figured it out. And then they went on a 10-quarter run where the defense was bad, and that derailed the entire season. I think it's a blemish on the coaching staff for sure that the team in 2 different interviews post-game said, 1, they weren't really prepared for Marcel Reed, and 2, on a big run by Florida that half the defense was in one call and half the defense was in another call. That's got to get coached better. But I think it more so comes down to who the players are. It's a great Kirby Smart line. Kirby Smart said this: players win games, not coaches. And he believes in that. He recruits to that standard, and that's what LSU has got to do. So whether that's get in the transfer portal, whether that's continue to recruit elite high school players and develop them with this great staff of developers that you have assembled, you've got to get better talent-wise on defense. And offensively, they've got to run the ball better. That's it. The passing game this year was good enough to win. Garrett Nussmeier finished the season with a 64% completion percentage. He threw for 3,735 yards, which is 3rd in the history of the school. He threw 26 touchdowns. That's in the top 5 for a single season in the history of the school. Garrett Nussmeier finished 6th in the country in passing yards per game, 12th in the country in touchdown passes, 4th in the country in completions. He made big plays when they had to have it against Ole Miss and South Carolina. And I thought he got better in terms of the turnover bug later in the season. And I think for a first-year quarterback to put that out there, that is good enough to compete at the top end of the SEC. Is there definitely a quarterback that you would take over him in the Southeastern Conference from this season? Are you 100% sure you want Quinn Ewers instead of Garrett Nussmeier? Some of you may be. Are you 100% sure you want Carson Beck? Are you 100% sure you want Jackson Dart? Are you 100% sure you want Nico? I'm not. I'm not 100% sure I want Milroe either. I thought that Garrett Nussmeier was good enough to have LSU in position to compete for a championship. I thought the defense was shaky and the running game didn't help enough. If Garrett Nussmeier had the running game that South Carolina had, if he had the running game that Florida found late in the season, I think that the pass rush calms down in some of the games that LSU lost or some of the games that he struggled with interceptions on. And I think that his interception numbers come down. And that's really the only thing you can point to. It's not really an accuracy thing. It's not a toughness thing, not a talent thing. It was a turnover thing. And I think that the lack of a running game contributed to that. So how do you fix these things? Well, in my estimation, you've got to go to the transfer portal and you've got to go get at least one starting offensive lineman with power conference skins on the wall that can help you in the run game. I think that Paul Mabenga got better over the last 3 weeks. I think there's a chance that Emory Jones comes back. You hope DJ Chester develops, and you've got some young offensive linemen like Weston Davis and Cohen Eccles that you've got high hopes for. And but you've got to get better in the run game up front. And you may have to go get a running back out of the portal. We'll see. But you've got to get better running the ball. And then defensively, you got to go to the transfer portal as well, and you got to get some things done there. And the problem I have, and this is something that I actually considered yesterday for the first time, it's obvious, but it had not clicked in my brain, that one of the flaws here is we judge these coaches on assembling talent. And oftentimes, this is now out of their hands. And it's hard for me to judge a football program based on how willing its donors are. That has nothing to do with Brian Kelly. All you can do is ask. That has nothing to do with Joe Sloan. That has nothing to do with Blake Baker. And their livelihood depends on it. And it's out of their control. That is tough for me to reconcile. It's difficult for me to judge a football program and how functional it is based on how willing rich donors are. But you've got to be aggressive. You got to make the right phone calls, and you've got to hope that those funds are available because they've got to upgrade the talent level on this defense. I think there are some young guys that can really help. I talked about that in the previous segment. I think Ahmad Bro and Dominic McKinley look like guys who are going to be really good players for you. You bring Jacoby and Guillory back. We'll see what Harold Perkins decides to do. That's an NFL-level player. And you're bringing in 3 high-end high school corners. You've got a couple of safeties that didn't get to the field on this team, and that's a little concerning, but they were highly thought of, and they are big-time talents. Kylan Jackson and Deshaun Spears looked the part. I'm puzzled that they didn't play more late in the season. They played a lot early, and then the decision was made, we're going with the older guys. But it's not out of the question to think that you could have a defense with 5 or 6 high-end NFL players on it next year. Just got to see if you can retain those guys, if you can go to the portal and add some, and make sure the signing class sticks together for the next 3 days. So it's the running game and it's the personnel on defense, in my opinion, that held this program back. And when you look back at this season and you realize that it was a favorable schedule in terms of what you got at home and what you had on the road, and you finished 8-4, it's concerning. It's not a death knell for the program, but I'm not ready to bang the gavel and say this team's absolutely ready to compete next year for championships. You're at Clemson to open the year. You're going to be at Bama in November. You're going to go to Oklahoma, who's about to overhaul that entire offense and spend some money again. You're going to go to Ole Miss. We'll see what that looks like. I have no idea. Grove Collective's going to have to try to step up again. And you get A&M in year 2 under Elko coming to Tiger Stadium. So it's a difficult road next year, but we just don't have a great idea of what that roster is going to look like. I think Brian Kelly understands where the shortcomings are. It's not in his control to the degree I would like it to be to fix it, but we'll see just how successful LSU's collective can be over the next month. Different world. But 2024 is in the rearview mirror. It's now on to signing day. See what you can get out of these practices and whatever bowl they send you to. And you got to make sure that the next roster looks better than this one, because I don't think LSU was a break here or there away. I think they were a long way away, because you can easily get this thing to 6-6. It's easier to get to 6-6 than 10-2. Lenora Sellers doesn't get hurt. That's one that could go the other way, and Garrett Nussmeier had to complete 3 fourth down passes against Ole Miss to get that one. I'm not taking him off the board. Great gutty wins, but it's tougher for me to wipe 2 of the losses off. Connor Wiggins probably got to stay in that game, and you got whipped by Alabama. You couldn't stop USC late, and Florida overwhelmed you at the end of the game. So I think LSU's got a lot of work to do. This season did not live up to expectations in year 3 under Brian Kelly. Now you got to go fix the roster. And it sounds like, based on his post-game press conference, that Brian Kelly is motivated to do that and has the expectation they will do that. We'll just have to see if they can get it done. All right, we'll come back. Saints lose. Taysom Hill out for the year. What does it all mean? That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com. Dealerships right there, Airline and PQ, and I tell you about it every day. It is first class. Gorgeous, gorgeous dealership. It's an incredible ambiance and environment. Brand ambassador team are fantastic to work with. But I know a lot of you don't love going to a car dealership. Feel like a lot of your experiences have been poor, that you're getting pushy service. That's never going to be the case at Genesis of Baton Rouge. But if you don't want to go to the dealership, you never have to set foot on the lot to purchase a vehicle. One of the brand ambassadors from Genesis of Baton Rouge will drive to you to get that test drive done. You can be at work, at home. They'll come to you, get you behind the wheel, and they'll show you what it's about. If you'd like to make the purchase at that point, you can do it. They can do e-contracts, digital delivery. You never set foot on the lot. I would recommend you go check it out. Every car that is on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. And every single new purchase, 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty at Genesis of Baton Rouge. Check them out online, GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million-mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
At Atmos Energy, our smart choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Monday show is brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com, GCOPnet.com. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, Gulf Coast Office Products. Fantastic people to work with. Trey Beal is awesome here in Baton Rouge. If you're not sure why you have the printer, copy, and scanner that you do, maybe you ought to look into that. Gulf Coast Office Products services clients in all sorts of vertical markets, whether you're in healthcare, law, education, whether you're like us, media company. No matter what you do, Gulf Coast Office Products works with someone in your industry, and they know what needs exist, and so they'll help you out and make sure that you're in the right equipment. If you got issues, they can get you fixed up. They've got a great team of technicians. They've got inventory ready to roll all throughout the state, including over $1 million here in Baton Rouge. Great people to work with. Printing, scanning, copying. It's Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com. There was a weird window in there as the Saints were a late kick on Sunday where it looked like, man, Atlanta just lost. What is going on with Tampa? Are they going to lose to the Panthers? And the Saints have shut out the Rams. Like, this is going to be a Saints team that's in the playoff mix. And then it all fell apart because Carolina couldn't hold on, and the Saints could not stop Los Angeles on the ground in the second half of that football game, and the Saints lose 21-14. Kyron Williams goes over 100 yards on 15 carries, and he really didn't even bust a big one. His long in the day was 17 yards. He averaged 7 yards a pop, and the Saints just simply could not do anything to stop the Rams on the ground, and they basically didn't even try to throw the ball until a little bit later in the game. I mean, Matt Stafford in the first half threw for 23 yards. 23 yards. And that didn't work because the Rams didn't score. It was only the second time in Sean McVay's entire head coaching tenure that they were shut out in the first half. The other time was the Super Bowl against the Patriots. But in this game, they continued to stick with it, and they ended up scoring 3 second-half touchdowns to win the game 21-14. Had the little screen out to Puka Nacua. It was his only catch of the game, but he does a good job there. He had one rush. He had 5 catches in the game, 1 for that touchdown. And they didn't really get Cooper Kupp going all that much, and we thought we liked the matchup that the Saints had there on the outside, but it didn't matter because the game was decided on the inside. And then for the Saints offense, just not a lot cooking there because Taysom Hill goes out. And once he goes out, you lose a physical threat in the running game. Now we find out that Taysom Hill is out for the season. Adam Schefter reporting it is a knee injury. And you just got to wonder if that's the beginning of the end for Taysom Hill. And I hate to even say that, but you're talking about a guy that's now in his mid-30s. He plays such a physical and taxing brand of football between all the things that the Saints ask him to do, from running the ball out of the shotgun, from running kicks back to throwing passes to blocking at the point of attack. Like, there's just so many things the Saints ask him to do. And when you suffer an injury this serious and you realize what he's gone through this year, it's just a lot to ask him to come back and be the same player he's always been and do as many things as you've asked him to do. So just a gutting injury there. I thought Kamara looked good in his efforts on the ground. He goes over 112 yards, and he's now almost just about 100 yards shy of his first career 1,000-yard season, which is cool for him. But you realize the Saints are in a bit of a bind when Taysom Hill and Juwan Johnson are, again, your leading receivers, and you're having to ask Dante Pettis to make a play on a 2-point conversion. Like, you don't have the requisite players to get things done. Yes, MVS has come in and been a shot of life. He's got 4 receiving touchdowns, and he makes a nice play on that touchdown the Saints did score in the fourth quarter. But there's just not enough. And candidly, this is where I think things are with the Saints. I mentioned at the top there, like, you're looking at this thing and you're going, oh my gosh, looks like the Falcons have lost. Looks like the Bucs are in trouble. The Saints are controlling the game against the Rams. You get this thing to 5-7, and you've got a real chance. Well, now you're 4-8, and you really don't. And you don't have the talent to expect to win a lot of games down the stretch. The Saints now, in my estimation, if you're a Saints fan, you look at this and go, let's just lose out. I don't think they will, but that's my mindset. I think they'll probably win this week because I think the Giants are that bad. But it's in the Saints' best interest, in my estimation, to lose the rest of the way because you need to get as far up that draft board as you possibly can. And if you can get into the top 5, all of a sudden, it really feels like you might be in position to get a quarterback. And I don't know who you like in this draft, if you're a Saints fan or if the Saints front office or new coach likes any of these guys at the top. It's not the most highly thought of top end of the draft. It's Shedeur Sanders, it's Carson Beck, it's Quinn Ewers, Cam Ward. You understand who these names are. But all of a sudden, if you get into the top 5, like, you are very, very much in the mix to either get a quarterback or have somebody trade up to grab their quarterback, and you can accumulate some more draft picks. This is not a position the Saints have been in the last 15, 18 years. They just haven't ever bottomed out. And this team hasn't bottomed out. They may beat the Giants, and they may beat the Raiders, and they may find a way to get to 7 wins. And at that point, you're closer to the middle of the first round than you are the top. And this discussion very much changes, but I don't want it to change. I want it to stay, okay, we're at the top of this draft. We either draft a quarterback of the future, let him sit behind Derek Carr for a year, and then see what he's got, or somebody comes up to get that quarterback of the future, you accumulate some more picks, and you can start to retool this roster. Because that is where you are. There was a time there where you fired the coach, and then you win 2 in a row, and you look at the rest of the division, you're going okay. But let's stop doing that. Because we don't have that discussion if you're in a division with Philadelphia, if you're in a division with the Lions, if you're in a division with whatever team, the Ravens or the Steelers, are having a great year in the AFC North. You're not in a division with Buffalo. Like, if the Saints were in a division with these teams, we wouldn't have these lingering discussions about whether or not they can eke into the back end of the playoffs, and that's really not what you should be talking about. You should be talking about trying to get to the top of the league, and you're nowhere near that. Nowhere near it. And you haven't been since Drew Brees walked off the football field in 2020. So it's time now for the Saints to reset the whole thing, and in my estimation, again, that comes from losing some more games. So it sucks. It's not a fun conversation to have. It's not one that Saints fans have had to have for a long time. But Dennis Allen's out. You're going to go through a coaching search here, and the organization needs to take a different path. And to me, that path needs to start towards the top of the NFL draft. And so you're 4-8 right now. If you can stick around 5 wins, that's toward the top of the draft. And you can start having discussions in that building that you haven't had in a very, very long time. And that's, yesterday that crystallized. Because in the span of an hour and a half, you went from, well, this kind of looks interesting, to, okay, tear it down. And I'm gutted for Taysom Hill, and I don't know what the future holds for Chris Olave, and you hate to see what happened to Paulson Adebo, and you hate to see what happened to Rashid Shaheed. And the injuries have just been awful. And you had another one on the interior of the offensive line. Cesar Ruiz is inactive, and then Nick Saldiveri goes down. And it's just been a disaster from that perspective. But that's not the entire reason why the Saints are where they are. There needs to be a shift. And yesterday, from the beginning of the fourth quarter, where the Rams outscored the Saints by 6 points and won the game by 7, to what happened eventually in the game between Tampa and Carolina, we now understand this is where things are. This team's not eking into the playoffs. They're going to do a coaching search. I don't think Darren Rizzi's going to be the guy. And now it's okay to lose some football games. Like, I understood where Saints fans were 3 weeks ago. Can we stop losing 7 in a row? Can we beat the Atlanta Falcons? Okay, now we've won another game against Cleveland. Okay, now we got a bye week. All right, let's see what we can do in the division. Maybe things can line up for us. That discussion's over. It's on to the next era of Saints football, and that happened over the course of an hour yesterday. If you're looking for our Saints coverage, you can certainly find it all the time at Hunt on Saints on YouTube. Of course, Ross Jackson does an awesome job at LouisianaSports.net covering the New Orleans Saints. He's got a couple stories up, a column on Taysom Hill, the news story on Taysom Hill being out for the year. There's a great numbers to know piece. It kind of highlights some of the wild statistics from yesterday. There's some pretty sobering ones in that piece, numbers to know about the Saints' run defense and where they rank in the NFL season long. You realize that's a big problem for New Orleans as well. So go check all that out for free on LouisianaSports.net. I've also got a prediction piece up there talking about what players I think LSU may or may not be losing to the NFL draft after Brian Kelly said there are going to be some key guys that come back. So if you want to read about my predictions there, you can do it over at LouisianaSports.net. When we come back, LSU on Friday got a victory on the hardwood. We'll briefly talk about that. We'll close it out, and then we'll get to my SEC picks against the spread and everything we saw on Rivalry Weekend coming up at 2 o'clock. This is a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com. A lot of insurance renewals coming up on January 1st. If you haven't considered your renewal, what's coming up in January, it's time to do that like now. And the Highland Insurance Group is happy to help you with all of your commercial property and casualty needs. Jonathan Carver tells me all the time, he's like, look, I want to be an asset. I want to be a trusted partner with the businesses that I work with and understand that they know they're in good hands. They can worry about running the business. I'll handle the insurance and claims and shopping for at renewal time and making sure that we've got every line in the market that it needs to be in. Highland Insurance Group's an independent broker. They can go find different carriers to handle different lines of insurance in your insurance program. If you're a business owner and you just don't know where to start with insurance, just looking at the premium line, let the team at Highland Insurance Group help you out with all your commercial property and casualty needs. They're right here in Baton Rouge. But anywhere in the state of Louisiana, they can absolutely help you out with commercial P&C or with your group or employee benefits. It's the Highland Insurance Group. Check them out online, highlandig.com.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Game day over at Baton Rouge Community College. Beyond the hardwood, got some cool specials as well. Brock Cantor, of course, the AD over at BRCC, joins us now. Brock, how we doing?
What's up, boy? How you been?
Been good. Hope you and your family had a great Thanksgiving. Let's tell us about what's going on tonight. 6 o'clock tip-off over at BRCC.
Dude, it's our post-Turkey Day Hoops Fest. We got the men's basketball team playing Copiah Lincoln. It is Team Sportsplex, which is dear to my heart. Their Winter League night. We're celebrating them. If anybody comes and plays on a Team Sportsplex Winter League team in their jersey, they get to get in for free. And upcoming this weekend, we got the Honky Tonk Chicks calling Baton Rouge at halftime of our game Saturday at 4:00.
Awesome. How are things going to start on the hardwood for BRCC?
Good. We had a great start. We're off to a 4-1 start. We hit the skids a little bit in Bossier Parish last weekend in a tournament up there. Lost 2 close games, Navarro and the BPCC. But we got a really fun, exciting team to watch. I mean, we scored 115 points 2 weeks ago at a game at home. Just a fun product to watch and an easy product to watch because it's right down the street. It doesn't cost a whole bunch, and it ain't hard to get to.
6 o'clock tonight over at Baton Rouge Community College. They're playing Copiah Lincoln. You can get on by and see tip-off this evening. Brock, thanks for a little bit of time, man.
You're the man, huh? Take care, baby.
He's Brock Cantrell, Baton Rouge Community College. Speaking of basketball, LSU got a win on Friday night against Northwestern State, but unfortunately, again, just a bad start for this basketball team that is going to have to kick that at some point. Because you're not going to be able to just will your way back into it against some of the better teams on the schedule. LSU came out and played very poorly against Alabama State, came out and played poorly against Charleston Southern, and they were trailing a bad Northwestern State team at halftime on Friday night. They had turned the ball over 9 times in the first half, which to me is just coming out with a lack of intensity, a lack of focus. You don't need to turn the ball over 9 times in the first half against Northwestern State. That's almost 1 every 2 minutes against this Demon team that is not very good. However, they have responded very well in second halves. They outscored Northwestern State 52-27 in the second half, and not surprisingly at all, that comes on the back of Jordan Sears and Cam Carter. It is very, very, very clear now that this basketball team is going to go as far as Cam Carter and Jordan Sears can take them. And in the second half against Northwestern State, they were great. Sears made 3 of his 4 threes. Carter made 3 of his 5 threes. They were aided by Victorious Miller on the wing. He got to the free throw line and made 7 free throws in the second half, and LSU completely overwhelmed, again, a poor Northwestern State team with a solid effort in the second half. I just wish that they would do that for 2 halves. They certainly did that at Kansas State, and I didn't even mention the fact that they got off to such a terrible start in the game up at the Greenbrier when they beat UCF, and they played great in the second half of that game. It's in there. Like, they can play really well, and they've done it against some teams that are better than Alabama State and Northwestern State, but you're going to have to find a way to get off to better starts, and I don't know that it's one issue. It's sloppiness. It's poor defense. They're missing shots. I don't like questioning effort, but you understand in empty PMAX against Alabama State and Northwestern State right after Thanksgiving that energy could be an issue. But I would shoo that away if it happened once. We're talking about 4 instances where LSU's come out in the first half and just been bad. There's no excuse for trailing Northwestern State, Alabama State, and Charleston Southern at halftime. Like, that's just not good enough. I've seen LSU basketball teams that weren't good enough for me to say that about. This one's good enough. They're good enough to not have those kind of issues. So it was a good second half. The final score looks fine. You beat this team by 24 points. All well and good. You move on to the next one. As I've told you many times, this is about avoiding these landmines and then going out and taking your swings against the good teams on your non-conference schedule. You avoided a landmine on Friday. You set up for a good non-conference team that'll be in the PMAC tomorrow. That's a 8 o'clock tip-off against Florida State. It's a Florida State team that's only got 1 loss on the season. It's part of the SEC-ACC Challenge, and this is a big opportunity for LSU. I talked about this a lot on last week's show, and I'll continue it all the way through the month of December. Like, the SEC is a monster. It's a monster. Auburn was phenomenal in Maui. Bama's beating people like Houston out in Vegas. You've got Tennessee in the top 5. Arkansas's got 2 projected first-round picks. Buzz Williams is always going to put a good product on the floor in College Station. You've got a Florida team that thinks it's good. I think that you've got 2 really good coaches in the state of Mississippi that are going to be tough to beat. Like, so it's a lot right now in the SEC. So you've got to do as much as you can in November and December to sock away some wins and put yourself in a position where you've got some margin for error in league play. Because LSU is going to drop some games in the SEC. It's just going to happen. And you've done a good job of avoiding landmines early on. You got your 1 swing against Pitt, who, by the way, in the initial net rankings that came out today, Pitt is 5th. So that's a really good Pitt team that you saw. And you're going to see a Florida State team that's pretty comparable to you. LSU was 50th in the net today. It's the first one that was released. So it's time to go try to get another win tomorrow. And we'll preview that game certainly on tomorrow's show as we get ready for a late tip at the PMAC. But LSU did enough on Friday to get by Northwestern State, and we'll see what they can do in a good opportunity in tomorrow's game inside the PMAC. All right, that's it for hour number one here on a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're presented by Gulf Coast Office Products. If you missed any of our first hour, opened with 30 minutes on LSU and Oklahoma from back on senior night inside Tiger Stadium, then a little thought on the Saints and then some LSU basketball. And if you missed any of it, catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound. I also remind you, if you want some basketball talk like we just had right there, you can find that on Hoops with Hunt, the old podcast stream that we've been using for 5, 6, 7 years, going back to the old Will Wade days. That's back up and running. It's just going to be content from this show. I'm not going to do it every morning, but every time I talk basketball on this show, we'll upload that to Hoops with Hunt, and you can certainly check that out wherever you find your podcast. We got a ton to do in hour number two. We're going to look at my SEC picks against the spread. I went Costanza on Wednesday. We went with the opposite of every pick. Did that pay off? We'll get the results, and we'll final the tally for all my picks against the spread, plus Denton Day on the Nation College Football at the bottom of hour number two. We'll step aside for Sports Center. Come back. A Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show presented by Gulf Coast.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Love telling you about One Bath and Closets. David Duvall and his team at One Bath and Closets been redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets for over 3 decades. So if you're looking for a brand new closet, looking for a completely refurbished bathroom, this is the only call you need to make. It's to One Bath and Closets. No call on 4 different contractors, handle different parts of the deal. Nope, they handle everything from soup to nuts. If you want some pictures of the fantastic work that they've done, you can find it at onebathandclosets.com. You can see some before and after shots. All of it is so functional. It's all customized, and it looks fantastic. So if you're looking for a gift, maybe for a loved one in your house, how about that? New closet, customized. New bathroom, customized. Doesn't cost anything to get the free consultation. You start at onebathandclosets.com. David comes in, shows you what he can do for you. If you're worried about paying for things, financing options are available, including 0% for 18 months if you qualify. It's One Bath and Closets online at onebathandclosets.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram can get you in a new 2025 Ram 1500 truck with $15,000 off MSRP. $15,000 off the newly designed Ram 1500 truck. All new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Brack, your #1 park system in the nation.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2640.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. USC quarterback Miller Moss told ESPN's Pete Thamel he's entering the NCAA transfer portal. A strong market for the 22-year-old is expected due to his combination of age, experience, and production. Missouri star Luther Burden III has declared for the 2025 NFL Draft. ESPN's Mel Kiper Jr. projects him as the number 19 overall player. The Ravens continuing to express confidence in and back kicker Justin Tucker following the worst game of his career. Missed 3 kicks yesterday. He's missed 10 on the season. That's the most in the NFL. Coach John Harbaugh has said they're not moving on from Tucker. ESPN NFL analyst Herm Edwards.
They don't have no option. Now, you can say, well, get rid of the guy. Man, you're getting ready to go into the playoffs. You want to take this guy with you. You got to help the guy. And you got to hope he can get over it.
Herm Edwards on Carlin versus Joe. Saints tight end Taysom Hill out the remainder of the season with a left knee injury. Despite a nightmare of a season, Aaron Rodgers will remain the Jets' starting quarterback, according to interim coach Jeff Ulbrich. Said Rodgers can still play at a high level and gives New York the best chance to win. His pedigree also factored into New York's decision.
Hey, it's Evan Cohen. Coming up Tuesday, Russell Wilson and Sam Darnold. I'll tell you why they shouldn't consider leaving their current situations. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Gulf Coast Office Products. Denton Day, 30 minutes from right now, talking all things college football. Time to tally them up. 14 weeks of SEC action. I picked everyone I could, outside of the LSU games, against the spread. And we finally have our results. I was 50-53 entering the week. I needed to go 6-3 to get to 500. So, in an effort to do that, I broke the games down on Wednesday of last week, and I picked the opposite of every game because we were leaking oil. We were only 4-12 in our last 16 after firmly being above 500. Our high watermark of the year, we were 46-41. That is 5 games over 500. And it all fell apart. So we decided to do the opposite.
We did. And after Friday, it looked pretty good.
It looked good because we got home with Mississippi State plus 26. That was inexplicable.
Easily.
Then we got home with Georgia Tech plus 19.5.
We should have won that game outright.
They should have won that game outright. And we were looking good in the 2 Friday games. At that point, going into Saturday, we just needed to go 4-3 in 7 games.
Yep.
We had Vandy plus 10.5.
Yeah,
that did not work.
It was close. They were up. They played really well the first half.
They did,
and then they got up.
They got up what? They got up 14-0.
17.
Yeah.
I think 17 to
That's
nothing.
right.
Yeah.
Whew, and they were catching 10. Still didn't cover. That is really brutal. We had Clemson minus 2.5. They lost. We had Kentucky plus 4. Atrocious football team. No chance to cover there.
Not good.
We had Arkansas plus 3. They could not get home there in snowy and icy Missouri. We had Florida State plus 14.5, and we knew that wasn't going to work because they're awful, and that didn't cover either. We did get home with Alabama minus 11.5, and we got home with Texas minus 5.5, but that was not enough. Go 4-5 on the week, for the season, 54-58. That is a failure.
It is. And you know what? I'm going to take some responsibility for this myself.
You should. I think that you really should.
I am.
Should reflect on that. Your influence was poor.
It was.
And I'm disappointed in myself. Last year, we finished 1 game over 500. This year, 4 games under.
Yeah, I'm disappointed. It was a tough Saturday for us. I mean, Friday it just looked
Flying
like
high.
This is just going to be this is what's going to happen as we suspected. The rivalry games are just going to take over, and there's going to be really dumb things happening in these games. And unfortunately, that was not the case for the most part. So.
Let's talk about the action. Let's talk about Texas going to Kyle Field and really bullying Texas A&M, I thought. Now, look, that said, A&M has the ball inside the 5, 1st and goal, and they've got a chance to go in and cut it to 3. They're down, and instead, Texas stuffs them at the goal line 3 different times. And I cannot blame Mike Elko for the decision to go for it there. At that point, it felt like they had a restless crowd who was disappointed in the offense. All they had to show offensively was a pick 6, which is clearly their defense. And I think you lose the crowd if you kick a field goal there. The field goal cuts it to 7, and you're within 1 score in the 4th quarter, but you haven't done anything on offense. So I think you've got a chance. You've got to punch it in there, and they just could not move Texas off the football. And I think the play call was questionable on the 4th down. I don't love trying to pull a guard and just leaving this huge lane for Texas to – they got tackled at the 4 on 4th and goal from inside the 1. Like, that's a failure on a lot of levels. But I did not hate the decision to go for that. It just did not pay off. And Texas really didn't have to do much after that. They just kind of were content to turn around and hand it off. And Wisner carried it 33 times for 186 in this game. And when you realize that Texas in this game runs for 243 yards, and you realize that that's a championship caliber team, we think, and that LSU couldn't run it at all and ran for like 20 yards on A&M, like that's just too big a margin. Like LSU was no match for A&M's front, and Texas just ran it right down their throat.
Yeah, it was pretty surprising, but really the A&M defense, they haven't been great against the run. And
they haven't been great for the last 3 games.
Yeah, they haven't.
They just after LSU. South Carolina pushed them around. Auburn went up and down the field, which makes not a lot of sense. And then Texas, while they didn't have a lot of points to show for it, I thought game control is that buzzword we like to use. They controlled the game for sure.
They had 461 yards of offense.
They were up 17-0.
Yeah,
and you finally get a pick 6 there that sparks the crowd. But A&M, that's got to be grossly disappointing for them to have positioned yourself where you did. You're in the top 10. You're the only unbeaten SEC team. You've beaten LSU. You destroyed Missouri. You destroyed Florida. And you feel like you've kind of got an opportunity to really take a step forward as a program. And you lose 3 out of your last 4. The only win was against New Mexico State. And losing a game to Auburn just looks so bad right now. And so Texas A&M, say it all together. What was their record at the end of the season?
8-4.
8-4. So that's jokes right themselves, I suppose. But a really nice win for Texas, and I think that's a team that you've got to really take seriously. They're going to be in the college football playoff, win or lose, on Saturday, and it's a team that I think can win it all. I said last week, like, what do we know about them? Their best win's Vanderbilt. That was a better win than Vanderbilt, and they certainly got the dudes. They've got a lot of NFL players, and that was an impressive win for them. Speaking of impressive wins, South Carolina going to Clemson and winning that game by 3. Awesome defensive work by South Carolina in that game to hold Clemson to 14 points. And I thought phenomenal work by Lenora Sellers as well. He would manage things when he had to in the passing game, but really starred in the running game. 16 carries, 166 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, including the game winner, where he just looked like the best athlete on the field. And ran that ball in from 20-plus yards out to put South Carolina on top. Just an incredible year for South Carolina. I don't know if they're going to get into the playoffs or not. I really don't. But I think that what they did this year, the body of work they put together, finishing the season with 6 consecutive wins, with 2 of their losses being with a backup quarterback by 3 to LSU and then by 2 points on the road in Tuscaloosa. That's phenomenal. They didn't play well against Ole Miss. They got beat badly that day by a good team. But to show up and to go to Oklahoma and win that game by 26 points, to host Texas A&M and beat them by 24, to bludgeon Vanderbilt by 21, to do enough to beat Missouri, and then to go on the road against your arch rival who has still a lot to play for, and to beat them at the end, I thought was incredible. And Shane Beamer deserves a ton of credit for putting that roster together. I think everyone was counting South Carolina out in August because you felt like you had a quarterback that was draftable, that was super talented, and that moved on, and he was probably propping you up, even though you still weren't that good last year. And then for them to turn it on and to really play good football 11 out of 12 weeks is a great year for them.
Yeah, and Shane Beamer, probably SEC Coach of the Year at this point. And
he would get my vote.
Yeah, and Lenore Sellers has a bright future for the next few years. I mean, Sellers, it seemed like to me he got better almost every game that he wasn't amazing statistically in this Clemson game, but he managed the game, and he made a play when they needed to win, and he did it. He got it done. So South Carolina, that they couldn't have done much better in my opinion in this season. I mean, I don't know how anyone
should they get in the playoffs.
Now the question, it's going to be really interesting to see, because I don't think the SEC's. I think they're going to get 3 teams in. I just don't know who the third team is, so then it's between South Carolina, Alabama, and I don't even know if Ole Miss is still in the conversation. But
well, if you look at 3, you can get there by Tennessee, Georgia, and Texas.
Yeah,
that can do it. But the question is, do you get another one in, or if Georgia loses, are they out? And it's that I think there's reason for discussion. It's one of those deals where, as I sit here today, I can hear any side of the argument. What hurts South Carolina, obviously, is that they lost to the 2 teams that are sitting there with the same record. And if you're just going off head-to-head there, that tiebreaker hurts you badly. Now, if you ask who's playing better between South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Alabama, no one is going to suggest that the answer to that is not Alabama. It is not South Carolina. But, again, that's just one factor there. We mentioned Georgia. They were lucky. I mean, gritty, tough, gutty, all that works, but lucky too. Haynes King was so good. You just can't put the ball on the ground.
No,
you can't fumble the football when you're controlling the game late in the game in the fourth quarter. The only thing right there that's gonna put them in real jeopardy of losing that game is a fumble, and he put it on the ground. And you just can't have that. You've got to protect the ball. He's an old player. He's got to know better than that. Look, Georgia Tech took it to Georgia, shut them out in the first half, 17-0, and you allow Georgia to score 21 points in the fourth quarter, and it's just, I don't think it happens if you don't put the ball on the ground. That play, I'm sitting there watching it in my parents' house, and like right when he puts it on the ground, I go, they're not good enough to overcome that. Like, solid year, good start to the season, got 7 wins. You played Georgia off their heels, but you're not talented enough in that stadium against that team to make that mistake late in the game. I just thought that turnover was everything. I mean, you can point to a ton of all the overtimes and 2-point possession and all that kind of, but like, don't fumble. That's what it boiled down to me.
Yeah, I mean, he had a couple of turnovers in the game, and in Georgia Tech, he lost he had a couple of fumbles. They only lost 1, but that
I mean, he carried the ball 24 times for 110 yards. He threw for 303.
He had an incredible game.
He did everything he could do except take care of the ball.
Yeah, and it's just that I think I agree with you there. When they have it there 27-20 and you go to overtime, it's just going to be so hard to overcome. And then of course it goes through 8 overtimes.
I thought Georgia Tech should have gone for 2 the first time they could. In the second overtime, they should have gone for 2, but they didn't. And look, after the second overtime, it really gets a little bit fluky because it's just 2-point stuff. But you've got a chance to go 2.5 yards to beat Georgia, and you're Georgia Tech. You need to do that, especially when you've got a quarterback who's running around. That's the difference for me when LSU had Jaden Daniels versus when they had Garrett Nussmeier. Like, I thought that LSU did a good job kicking the extra point in the game against, who was that against late in the season? They kicked an extra point to keep it tied, and I thought it was a great decision then, and it's a good decision, I thought, when you had Jaden Daniels to go for 2 against Alabama, because you have a quarterback that's just a nightmare on the edge. And I think when you got Haynes King and he's running around a little bit, I think it would have been best to try to go for 2, because that just puts a lot of pressure on the defense. But they didn't do it, and Georgia got out off the hook and got out alive. They just don't lose a lot of games in Athens, Georgia. So crazy game back on Friday night. Take a time out. We'll come back and react to the rest of the action in the Southeastern Conference. Still got to get to Denton Day coming up in 15 minutes. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Boudreaux'sElectrical.com. Neil and Melissa have been running the show for 40 years down there in Napoleonville. Got a brand new location here in Gonzales as well. I'll give you those phone numbers coming up. But you got to give yourself the peace of mind of knowing that you can get that you're not going to be suffering during power outages. Power outages are going to happen down here in South Louisiana. We've got hurricanes, we've got ice storms, we've got bad drivers, we've got summer thunderstorms. Just give yourself the peace of mind to know that you're not going to lose power. And you can do that with a Generac home standby generator from the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical. They've got more than 10 techs that can be out in the field servicing generators if they are to malfunction. Well, how do you know if they're malfunctioning? Well, you may not, but Boudreaux's Electrical will, because they monitor your generator 24/7 remotely. So if there's an issue, whether it's just a mechanical failure or if the kids are out in the front yard and somebody knocks into it and you never know, well, don't find out that it's malfunctioning when the power goes out and you're supposed to have it come on. Let Boudreaux's Electrical alert you, say, hey, we're coming out to fix it, so that you've got the peace of mind of knowing you're not losing power. Call them at 985-397-1562, 985-397-1562, or 225-300-9389. Again, that's 225-300-9389. It's Boudreaux's Electrical.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Just saw a little tweet fashion update for the SEC Championship game. Texas has elected to wear all white, so Georgia will be in red on Saturday as those two battle for the Southeastern Conference Championship and a bye in the college football playoff. Just a little note to pass along there. Kentucky will not be playing in the SEC Championship game in football this year, nor will they be in the college football playoff. That's because they lost their last 6 conference games, losing that's 6 out of 7 to finish the season. Louisville beat them at 41-14 in Lexington over the weekend. And it feels like to me, Beck, that this is broken beyond repair for Mark Stoops.
Yeah.
Because when you try to leave like he did to go to College Station and then something happens and you jump back in and then you lay an egg of this proportion where their offense completely broke. They scored 14 on Louisville, 14 on Texas, 18 on Tennessee, 10 on Auburn, 20 on Florida, 13 on Vanderbilt, 12 on Georgia, 6 on South Carolina. Like, they couldn't score multiple touchdowns in almost any SEC game. And then you post a record like they did this year where you win 4 games. They went 4-8. Like, you're just in that state with that program, you've won, not shown you can adapt to this era of college football, and 2, you now have to go knock on the donors' doors for more money, and they're going to come back and say, okay, 1, you tried to leave. 2, you did a terrible job coaching this year. 3, we got a new basketball coach who's asking for money, and we're probably going to give him some. So, like, I cannot imagine Mark Stoops getting this turned around, and I just have a hot take here. Next year will be his final year at Kentucky. That's what I feel.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that. It's kind of surprising, obviously since 2017, since 2016, they've won at least 7 games, only 1 year, and that was the COVID year. So it's pretty surprising to see what happened this year, but next
year they're at South Carolina, at Georgia, at Auburn, and then they have Florida and Tennessee and Ole Miss coming to them. Plus, you're at Louisville, and then you got Texas coming to you. It's just that's not going to be tenable. I can't imagine that he's going to be able to fundraise the way he needs to. I can't imagine that he's going to be able to win games in this ridiculous conference. I think he had his day in the sun when Tennessee was trying to figure it out, and Florida was trying to figure it out, and South Carolina was down. Like, you had an SEC East that outside of Georgia wasn't really humming, and then by the time Tennessee's figured it out. South Carolina's had a great year this year. Even Vanderbilt's punching up this year and beat you in Lexington. So it's just I don't believe that Mark Stoops will be able to figure this out, and I think that he will be the next SEC head coach that is let go. It could be Sam Pittman. They gave him the vote of confidence today. Sad for Sam Pittman. He's coaching in the booth because he got to have his hip hurt so bad he had to have replacement. I think tomorrow. But they're going to bring him back. But I think that Kentucky's disenchantment with Mark Stoops is going to continue a little bit further, and I can't imagine him sticking this out. Speaking of Arkansas, Missouri beats them 28-21 in just what looked like despicable conditions up there in Missouri. I was freezing in Tiger Stadium in the 40s. I can't imagine what that was like up there in Missouri. But Arkansas looked good early. They were tied 7-7 at halftime. They went to the fourth quarter leading 14-10, but they got outscored 18-7 in the fourth quarter. And Missouri kind of rallied the troops this year. I think they were a trendy playoff pick early, and things didn't look good early because you barely eked by Boston College and Vanderbilt, and then you got annihilated against Texas A&M. But they did enough to beat Florida, and after they got embarrassed by Alabama with a backup quarterback, they win 3 of their last 4 league games, and the one loss was a tough game against South Carolina. So to me, even though it was the bottom teams in the conference they were playing, they rallied the troops a little bit for Eli Drinkwitz, but now you got to move on with life without Brady Cook, and Luther Burden just announced that he's heading to the NFL. So I'm not a big buyer in Missouri stock. Wasn't before the season. I'm not now, but still impressive finish to the season for them.
Yeah, it is. And again, their schedule next year will not be too bad. It will be somewhat manageable. I mean, they will play A&M at home, they'll play Alabama at home, and they will play South Carolina at home, which were all losses, and that gives them a little bit of a better chance, I think. But they're still going to play State. They're going to play Arkansas. They're going to play Vanderbilt, who probably will be down after losing Diego Pavia. And other than that, I mean, I'm not going to say they're going to win 9 games again next year, but I think Eli Drinkwitz is got that team rolling pretty solidly, and he may be able to continue to build after a pretty good year this year.
Report out that DJ Lagway not going to enter the transfer portal. He will remain at Florida, so that's kind of the linchpin of the Napier area and keeping it together. They just kind of smothered a terrible Florida State team back on Saturday. Florida State, one of the worst offenses we've ever seen, and it didn't show up on Saturday. They only scored 11 points in that game, and Florida beats them in Tallahassee. What do you make of all these fights after games?
The flag. Everybody's trying to
we got to plant the flag.
Everybody's got to plant their flag at midfield for some reason, and it's just causing all these problems. I mean, Billy Napier tried to go shake Mike Norvell's hand, and Mike Norvell pointed, hey, your guys are trying to plant a flag. Maybe you should go handle that.
And to Steve Sarkisian's credit, he did handle that. He did not allow his players to go onto the. They were like, it looked like they were going to the logo.
It did, yep.
And like, I get there's a boys will be boys thing, and there's certainly going to be a faction of people that says if you don't want us to plant the flag, then beat us. All this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But you don't need to plant the flag.
No.
Just win the game. That's fine. But yeah, and that's a little spicy between Norvell and Billy Napier. To that end. James Franklin and former Mike Loxley got into it after that game with Maryland and Penn State. And it wasn't about the flag. It was about Loxley was ticked that James Franklin and Penn State were throwing the ball late in the game with a big lead. And Franklin, who rubs me a little bit the wrong way.
Yeah.
Just a little bit in some of the press conferences he does. I didn't love when he was complaining about the fact that they had to drive to the airport before they played USC, whatever that's about. But he said, look, we are in a beauty pageant here, trying to get an at-large selection, and margin of difference and victory and game control do matter. Also, I've got my third team in there, and they get to play football when they go in the game. And also, you're in cover 0, bringing pressure. Play cover 2, and we're not throwing deep shots. So, again, I'm not a big James Franklin guy, but I thought he made some reasonable points. Could he have just run the ball and gotten out of town? Sure. Is anybody really worse off if the threes are throwing a touchdown pass late in the game? I don't necessarily know.
Yeah, and you saw this with also at Indiana, who was playing Purdue. Purdue was coming into the game 1-10, and Indiana kept Curtis Rourke in the game the entire game, and he threw 6 touchdowns, and they scored 66 points. Do you think Indiana is doing that, if not for any other reason besides trying to make it their season look a little bit better? And even though they don't really have good wins, they had to go out and do what they could do, which was score as many points as possible against a conference team.
Yeah, I mean, look, you've got when they took Aller out, and talking about Penn State now, they put in their backup. He threw 3 passes.
Yeah,
the game, it was 44-7, and Penn State scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. To me, that's a coach who's ticked and is just ticked off because he just went 4-8 and got smoked in the last game of the season. I didn't necessarily think it was. Now, if you start calling timeouts, or something like that, that's just completely, you're going above and beyond. But if you're just out there playing football, I don't have a massive issue with it.
Yeah, I don't either.
So it's just, I get people are competitive, whatever. But when we go to this subjective thing where everybody's got to kind of look at who did what, I mean, is 31-7 not as good as 44-7? Who's to say? I don't know. I think Penn State is fine. They're 11-1, so it's. I think they're going to be okay to get into the playoff. But I didn't have a huge issue with the way that the teams were playing in that instance. I don't need guys planting the flag. That's above and beyond. You don't have to do that.
Yep. And then the Michigan-Ohio State thing, of course, was the culmination of all those.
Look, sports, they pack some drama at times, and we certainly saw that on Rivalry Weekend, and that's not going to be the last time we see something like that on Rivalry Weekend. We'll talk about all of that with our guy Denton Day, SiriusXM's College Football Overtime. He joins us coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com is the website. If you've got an outdoor area and you'd like to enhance it with some video, some television, or audio speakers, do that with the folks at Audio Video Security Solutions. It would be a great gift the Christmas season to have that installed at your home. Mitchell Fisher and his team happy to help you. And when I give you this phone number, it's not like some office in Atlanta that you've got to get through a recording. This is Mitchell Fisher, the owner of the company's cell phone right here in Baton Rouge. 225-439-7920. 225-439-7920. You directly call the owner of the company, Mitchell Fisher, and he's your point person as you start this process. They can help you with your audio, with the speakers like they've done in my house. They can mount your television or install your television like they've done in my house, and they can handle your security as well. But they love doing work on those outdoor areas. And for us, this time of year is maybe our best outdoor time because the weather's generally pretty nice. So call the folks at Audio Video Security Solutions and get it all set up today. Audio Video Security Solutions online, avssla.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
All right, chugging along here on a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're presented by Gulf Coast Office Products. Every Monday, we chat with our guy, Denton Day, SiriusXM's College Football Overtime. He joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Denton, Jaden Daniels got things back on track for your Commanders back on Sunday. All is right in the nation's capital now?
Yeah, life is so much better when you're winning and when your quarterback is playing like you know he can play. He was awesome. He was, we've been waiting for it, but he finally showed us what we knew that he was again, so it was nice to see.
How are we feeling about playoff chances? I know Philly's been playing well. Does it still feel like the Commanders are very much in the mix and can be a threat in the NFC?
Definitely in the mix. As far as being a threat defensively, still a lot of problems, but maybe when Marshawn Lattimore is up and healthy, we will see a little bit of fixing to those problems. But they should definitely make the postseason. What they do in it, we'll see.
Yeah, Lattimore just has not been healthy for a couple of years. Just a bummer. He's still a good player when he's out there. He's just not out there very much. We know that story very well down here in South Louisiana. All right, let's talk some college football. Ryan Day is 47-1 against non-Michigan Big Ten teams. He's not beating Michigan currently. Is he in jeopardy of losing that job?
I think it depends on what happens tomorrow night with the college football playoff, and then eventually when the final 12 are laid out. Losing to Michigan is never good. This was as bad of a loss as you are going to find. The way that they lost, the team that they lost to, I mean, Michigan still can't throw a forward pass.
Nope.
And they couldn't do anything against them. I mean, they could only score 10 points against Michigan's defense. This was supposed to be the most talented team that Ohio State has ever had, and they could only score 10 points. It was embarrassing from every single angle that you look at it. And then even after, I understand if you want to defend your stadium, but maybe defend it during the game and don't lose to Michigan. That's just my thoughts on that. But if they get into the college football playoff, you can't fire him. Like, you have to at least ride the rest of this year out. And then maybe after that, we'll see. If they get in and they make a deep run and they win the national championship, you'll be able to look past the Michigan thing. But if they get in and they get a first-round matchup on the road to, let's just say hypothetically, like a Notre Dame, and they lose, then he's gone. There's no reason that you should keep him around after that.
I hear you, but like that stat I just gave, like he never loses to anyone else, and there's got to be a little value in that. It's not like they've fallen off a cliff and the program's a disaster, but I get that it's a big deal to lose to Michigan, but he's got them in position to be a championship level team every year, in my opinion.
I agree with that, but if they lose, that's why I'm saying they have to lose early. If they lose early, then it is losing to just more than Michigan. And you're like, all right, well, you lost to Clemson that one year, and I'm sure Ohio State fans are still screaming, well, there was a call that was blown that shouldn't have been made, and it was with Sean Wade getting ejected in that Trevor Lawrence game. But you lost to that one. You got crushed by Alabama, although that Alabama team with Mac Jones and Devontae Smith was insane that year. I don't know if there was anyone that was beating them. But if you lose to somebody, like the Notre Dame thing, I think would be interesting because, I don't think most fan bases view Notre Dame particularly highly in like the realm of the college football playoff. So if you lose to them, then I think it opens the question. I think the problem they're going to run into is Urban Meyer's not walking through that door. He's not coming back to college football for the third time. I mean, Lord have mercy. And you're not getting Mike Vrabel. I've seen some of that circulating over the past 2 days. Oh, maybe Mike Vrabel is going to. Yeah, the guy that wanted more power from an NFL front office is just going to decide he wants to go hang out with high schoolers 365 days a year when he's not hanging out with college. Like, no, he's not going to come do that. So there's not a lot of better options right now for Ohio State, but I think there's a level of anger where they're not supposed to lose 4 in a row to Michigan.
What do you think about Notre Dame?
I love that they don't ask Riley Leonard to do a ton. My guess is when they get to the college football playoff, they're going to have to ask him to do a little bit more. I think they're a really good running team. I think in order to win a national championship as a running team, you have to be a truly elite running team or have a really great defense. That's kind of what Michigan was last year, and I think they are a very good running team. Defensively, I don't know that we've really seen them face off against a team that should push them. Like, they have the ranked wins over Navy and Army, and those programs have had good seasons, but they're not throwing the football. I mean, they're throwing it more than what we're accustomed to them throwing it, but they're really not high-octane offenses. The triple option is a beast to deal with. I get that. But I want to see what their defense is like against teams that have legitimate talent on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm optimistic about them. Maybe I shouldn't be because we know the history of the program. I almost bet them 10-1 today. I have to be honest. I almost bet them that way. But we'll see. We'll see. I need to see them play better offense against better defenses and play good defense against better offense.
I don't know if Texas played great offense on Saturday, but they did enough to win the game, scoring 17 points. What'd you learn about the Longhorns on Kyle Field?
Not much. They relative to where they are ranked, they are not that team. They offensively have left me with so much to be desired this year. And whether it's Quinn, Arch, whoever, it really feels like they're wasting a prime Steve Sarkisian play calling year because he is awesome. I think he does a sensational job, but they just haven't been able to execute at the level that I think they're going to need to. We talk about potential upsets once the 12 are revealed. They seem like a potential upset waiting to happen, whether they win the SEC and beat Georgia, get redemption, or if they're just a higher ranked, or I guess lower ranked with a home game SEC team in the first round it feels like they are set up to get upset because there's something about watching them where I'm not on board with what they have going.
What about Georgia?
I think I like them a little bit more, but like not a lot more. I mean, first of all, that 8 overtime game was thrilling. I mean, it was impossible not to be excited about that. Regardless, I know there are a lot of people that are very iffy on the 8 overtime philosophy when you get to overtime number 3 with all those 2-point conversions. But I had a lot of fun with that game. I thought it was impressive that Georgia was able to win that game because I do think Georgia Tech, their record doesn't show them as a great team, but they're a hard-ass team. Brent Key's done such a good job with the way, not just changing the mentality, but the way they execute on the field. They are a hard-ass team to play against. I just don't think them offensively is very similar to Texas, not that impressive. I think they're better running the football when they can actually run the football. It just seems like they have struggles in terms of running it consistently. So I don't love Georgia, but I think I trust Kirby Smart more than most people in college football right now, so that gives them a little bit of an edge.
So is Oregon where your heart lays now? I mean, you're not sold on Notre Dame, you're not sold on Texas, you're not sold on Georgia. I would imagine that Oregon's got to be next up.
Yeah, I mean, right now Oregon is where I would put my money at. I mean, if you asked me this 4 days ago, it would have been Ohio State, and then they went and got rocked up by Michigan. But I think Oregon right now seems to be playing the best. I just hope that Dan Lanning doesn't get too in his head with being aggressive in the late stages of a close game. You know, he's done that before. Last year against Washington twice. He did it a little bit this year in a matchup where he was faking a field goal when it was a 1-score game in the fourth quarter. And you're just like, God, like, please don't let your thrill of being this aggressive king cost you a game. But I feel like Oregon is the most talented team that's playing the best right now. So I would say that they're my pick as we stand here now, but that could change on a weekly basis, it feels like.
How are you feeling about the 9-3 SEC teams that are at home this weekend? That's Alabama, that's Ole Miss, that's South Carolina.
I think life is so much better if Lenore Sellers is going to be in the playoff, just because he is kind of like he's like a little bit more talented Diego Pavia, where he's going to will his team to victory. I think the problem with South Carolina is they have losses against those other two teams, which is really going to call into question what is the philosophy of the committee? How much do you value in a 12-team playoff the head-to-head spot versus actually getting better throughout the course of the season? Because I have a feeling if South Carolina were to play Bama now, they win that game. But they didn't win that game because Lenore Sellers missed a throw that was there to force it to overtime. So it's one of those things. I think Ole Miss probably has the actual best resume to get in there, but I'm personally very, very annoyed that Lane Kiffin is going to Twitter to vouch for his team. I just find that to be very annoying. I think he should be above that. Although, why would Lane Kiffin be above anything? Maybe that's on me.
Yeah, Lane's not above anything.
He's not. It's so annoying. I'm like, oh my God, did you do this in the notes app? Are you serious, bro? Like, did you do this? Did the intern do this? Oh, it's so annoying. But they are probably the team that has the most logical path to get in, outside of the fact that Bama is Bama. But Ole Miss, I would say, is better than Bama. So my guess is if one of those three teams gets in, it will be Ole Miss. But I would love it to be South Carolina.
You got a quick thought on LSU? 8-4 in Brian Kelly's third year. They beat Vanderbilt and Oklahoma to finish the season. Kind of overarching thoughts on that?
I think they need to. They did some good stuff. They just need to put together an entire season, and Kelly got to get in the recruiting. Like you have to get talent. You got to get a quarterback that can make plays with his arm and his leg. I thought Garrett Nussmeier showed a lot of good stuff this year, but it was very clear in close games he was not going to be a run threat. You got to get a guy that can make plays with his legs. I thought defensively they were better this year than they were last year. It would have been hard to be worse because they made their quarterback play Superman every single week.
Yep.
I don't think that LSU fans should be drastically overreacting. I do think LSU will be at the top of the SEC in a year or two, but I can understand why people in Baton Rouge should be very frustrated with how this year played out.
We'll see. Got to get in the transfer portal and sign a really good class coming up here in a couple of days. Denton, we appreciate some time, man. We'll talk next week.
I appreciate it as always, man. Thank you.
Denton Day, SiriusXM College Football Overtime. He's with us each and every Monday talking CFB. All right, we'll come back and close things out with a little Take It or Leave It on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. When you think Genesis, you should think luxury. It's a luxury brand of vehicles. When you think luxury, don't immediately just assume everything's too expensive. Genesis is a luxury brand at a reasonable price. And they also offer some incredible, incredible specials to buyers. Talking about a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. You're talking 3 years complimentary maintenance, valet maintenance. So if you're talking about air filters, oil changes, wiper fluid, all that, they can handle that complimentary for 3 years. That's just part of being a Genesis driver. You don't see a ton of Genesis on the road. They're fairly new to the game here and new in that location, Airline and PQ. So maybe you haven't been by. I highly recommend you go check it out. Just get behind the wheel. Let one of their brand ambassadors show you that experience that is driving a Genesis. Every car that's on the lot on Airline and PQ across from Women's Hospital is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Go.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Congratulations to our 2024 Hooters College Football Pick'em season-long champion, Roy Barrymore. Roy wins a 75-inch 4K flat-screen TV with the soundbar and 3 Hooters wings for an entire year. Also, congratulations to our Week 14 winner, Beatsy Plaisance from Prairieville. Beatsy wins a Hooters wing party for 10 people. Coming soon, it's the Hooters College Bowl Pick'em contest with 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, closing up shop here on a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're presented by Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com, GCOPnet.com. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, they got you covered at Gulf Coast Office Products. They handle all of our equipment here at Guarantee. They can do the same for you statewide. They're big enough to handle any of your orders here in the state. They're also small enough that you're going to have a great relationship with your sales rep there at Gulf Coast Office Products. An incredible job of employee retention over there because it's a wonderful place to work and great people to be around. So if you're looking to enhance your situation, printing, printers, scanners, copiers, Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com. Gulf Coast Office Products. All right, we got one thing left to do. That is, of course, play a little bit of Take It or Leave It. Jacob Beck.
Alrighty, first one here, as we talked about a little bit, but or in the last segment before last, but planting your team's flag at midfield, take it or leave it.
I'm gonna leave it. I don't need that. I'm not too big a fuddy-duddy on like celebrations and taunting and all that. Like I like a little bit of fun and a little bit of intensity. I think rivalries are really good for sports, but that's just not a necessary thing, and it's just so likely to trigger a fight. Because if someone sees that, it's going to irritate them and they're going to take a shot. And we saw that far too often over the weekend. So I think we gotta put a stop to that. They're fining people for everything at this point. I think that's probably something they can look at in this situation as well, because it's creating copycat behavior. When Baker Mayfield did it, like no one really did that a lot. But if you got 4 teams trying to do it on one weekend, I think that we've kind of got the writing on the wall that we need to do something about it. So I think probably something will be done about it.
All right, next one here. The LSU Lady Tigers beat NC Central yesterday by 90. It was 87, but beating a team by 90, take it or leave it.
I'll take it. It's fine. It's good. I mean, if it's going to be on the schedule, they're going to collect the check for it. You got to go out there and play some basketball. The haves and have-nots in that sport can get a little bit haywire. So it's not surprising. Just on to the next for Kim Mulkey's squad.
All right, next one here. Dan Hurley needs to chill. Take it or leave it.
Okay, I'm taking this.
Yeah, me too. It's
what does he talk like? I don't. If you missed this story over the weekend, it was during the holidays, so some people may have missed it. They went to Maui, UConn did, and went 0-3, which is shocking to me. But he was cranky about so many things with the Maui Invitational. He was cranky about the officiating and said that he didn't think the back-to-back national champs would get a whistle like that. It's like, hey, Dan, the results of last season's basketball games don't impact officiating decisions the following season. You don't get advantages with the officials because your team was good last year. The rules are the rules. We're just going to play basketball. So this is not about any respect you need for the whistle. So that was ridiculous. Then he says that he will never play in a multi-team event again as long as he's the head coach at UConn. Well, that's really painting yourself into a corner because you lost 3 games in Maui. Like, that's a great experience for young men to be able to fly to Hawaii, play in that famous tournament, get some experience. The losses aren't going to come back and hurt you. It's UConn. So these exist every single year. And you're going to deprive your program's kids from going to Maui or going to the Bahamas or going to Atlantis or playing in Madison Square Garden or wherever UConn is headed next because you got cranky over 3 days in Hawaii?
By the way, you lost that first game against Memphis because of yourself. You got a technical foul at the end of the game and gave Memphis free throws, and they turn around and win that game overtime. So you can blame yourself for that one.
The ego and the arrogance and all this, like, he's the face of college basketball. Krzyzewski's gone. Roy Williams is gone. He's won 2 national championships in a row. There's no Jim Calhoun. There's no Jim Boeheim. Like, he and Bill Self, Jay Wright retired. Like, he and Bill Self are kind of it. And for him to show up and just be a jerk about this whole thing just doesn't make any sense. I don't get it.
I don't either.
He's got to chill on that and maybe walk that back on the multi-team events because UConn probably ought to play in some of this.
Yeah, they probably should. And I mean, look, there's plenty of guys. A lot of the biggest name head coaches are pretty fiery. I mean, Cal's pretty fiery. Coach K could get pretty fiery. Roy Williams was fiery, but they didn't do stupid stuff like this. Like, they weren't.
It's a take your ball and go home mentality. Like, I'm cranky about the officiating in Maui, so I'm just gonna blow up an entire aspect of this sport. I mean, these multi-team events are huge parts of college basketball in November. Like, it just is what it is. And to take the most successful program over the last 2 years in the sport and just say, hey, we're done, we're above that. Come on, man. We don't need that.
All right, last one here. MLB.com is reporting that Juan Soto is likely headed to the Red Sox or Mets. the Yankees will pony up and win the bidding war and don't allow their rivals to get them. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave it. You're going to get into a bidding war with Cohen, you're going to be in some trouble because he's got more than you. He's got a bigger war chest than you. So I understand that may turn the heat up a little bit, and maybe this report is just coming out to put the heat. I mean, there's no two teams you would go to with that kind of a report to take the Yankees off more than the Mets, little brother across town, and the Red Sox, their rivals. So, yeah, I think that may be a little strategic play there from Scott Boras, but as we oftentimes
no
lament,
surprise there.
No Cubs involved in the one soda working. So that's very disappointing. But
yeah,
it is what it is. All right, I hope your work week's off to a good start. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Excited for tomorrow's show. We'll preview LSU and Florida State on the hardwood. I've got a segment prepared for tomorrow talking about what LSU players I think will come back for another year at LSU and what players I think may test the NFL draft waters. You heard Saturday, Brian Kelly talking about, well, some key guys are going to return. They just haven't announced it yet. So I'll kind of take my shot at that coming up on tomorrow's show. We'll chat with Glenn West. Talk with Sharif Ishak as well, so plenty to do on a Tuesday show. If you missed any of our Monday show, you can always catch it on demand wherever you find your podcast. We opened the show talking LSU in Oklahoma for about 30 minutes. Then we talked Saints. Taysom Hill done for the season. You can find that at Hunt on Saints on YouTube. My reaction to LSU's Hoops win over the weekend. At the end of the show, you can find that at Hoops with Hunt, wherever you find your podcast. SEC football talk and Denton Day National Football Talk in hour number 2. That'll do it for us. Matt's going to drive you home on After Further Review. We're back tomorrow, same time, same place, for a Tuesday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
LeBears Baton Rouge. Got to make LeBears Baton Rouge your game day headquarters this season. You can watch all the games on their giant TVs that play multiple games. Fantastic setup there. They've got group seating with the tables. They've got individual seating. They got a great wait staff, drink specials, great food as well. You can tackle the area's best game day food and beverages with all your friends. Get in on the football action, get in on the basketball action this winter with Penn Play and ESPN Bet. Penn's online sportsbook now live in Louisiana. You can score big this season with LeBears Baton Rouge however you want to play. Must be 21 years or older. If you've got a gambling problem, you can call 1-800-522-4700. It's LeBears Baton Rouge and ESPN Bet. Always invite you to download that Penn Play app right there on your smartphone or smart device. It's an easy way to place your wagers or get on by ESPN Bet. Inside LeBears Baton Rouge, right here in the capital city of Baton Rouge. It's ESPN Bet.
At Atmos Energy, our Smart Choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances